Okay, building your own shed. Right from the get-go, you need to do a drawing of the whole floor area, of the height of it, the span from one side to the other, so you can work out things such as the centre. Use a scale rule like this. See, it's marked in metres on it, 1 to 2 metres, as you notice. I drew it down here so I could get some ideas going to show like the pitch of the roof, so I could work out what the kind of degree pitch the roof would be, how the gutter was going to sit, how the rafter for the would cut in against the edge by the gutter, as you can see right there. Yeah, so it's good to know exactly what you want. The span of the struts along the side. I drew it all out first just to throw around ideas. I gleaned lots of ideas off YouTube before starting, and I have built several so far, so I've been honing the skill. But let's move on from here to have a look at setting out the floor slab for starters. Right, here we have a cross-section plan. Not sure if you've ever seen one before, but this is a cross-section. The blue indicates the concrete floor, looking at it from side on, cross-section. You'll notice that on each side I've made it an extra thickness to allow for a wee thickening that goes right around the outside of the concrete floor where you pull your walls up or set your walls up on. The orange is compacted shingle underneath the floor. You could make that 100 mil if you like, just so you dig down an extra depth and allow for a wee bit of compacted shingle just to give it some extra support. You'll notice that this shed is 2.2 metres across. That's, sorry for you Yanks, I know you work in feet and inches and stuff, but yeah, so it's 2.2 metres across. That's this shed, and it was 4 metres long. Let's move on to the set out. Okay, so we're going to mark out our string line and peg line so we can set up our boxing for the floor slab. So you'll see that I've marked a string line, or set a string line just off the fence, using the fence as a good parallel line to work off. You might want to work off a house to keep your line straight. And then you'll see I've marked, as indicated, 2 lines, 2 width lines off that straight line, as indicated. And then this next picture, yep, so this picture, you'll see I've put 2 pegs at each end. So this is marking the ends of it. So in this case, this floor is 2.2 wide, which I marked off that in the previous photo, off the string line, 2.2. Now I've put my end pegs, 1 at each end. The floor slab is 4 metres long. So in the next picture, I'll show you how to get it actually square. Yep, this one. So you pull from one corner to the opposite end over the other opposite side, as indicated in this picture, and read the box. Pull a tape measure. This is 4 metres long, so they should add up. Both sides should add up, and that'll make sure you're square. You've got the whole thing square. You can use the 3-4-5 method, which if you search that on Google search it, it gives you a better indication of how to get your boxing square and set out nicely. But this is a sort of a lazy way, working off a straight parallel line, which was the fence, and it also worked to the house. I double checked it. So once you've got your corner pegs set and straight, well, square, sorry, and you're happy with that, then you can put more pegs along that string line that you see set up, and then put your boxing up nailed to it across the long straights and across the ends, and the top of the string line, of course, being your finish level for concrete. So right from the get-go, you want to figure out, you know, a height that's going to be your finish floor level to make sure it's higher than other grassy ground areas by at least 100 mil, 120 mil or so, so that your floor's not going to get inundated by rain. You just want to think about rain runoff, you know, when you put your boxing up for final floor level. Okay, on to the next pic or video. Yep, so here's the floor slab once it's finished, poured. She's not that crash hot in the look. I'm not really that concerned about that. I'm going to throw some carpet over this, underlaying carpet. So you can see where I've finished to the peg line and the top of the boxing. Leave this for a few days before stripping the boxing, because it'll be a bit green. You don't want to break away the edges. And leave it a week or two to harden before doing your walls. Okay, so what you're looking at now is the corner of the floor slab. You'll notice that orange small, that's a 50mm bit of orange duct, a 90-degree bend that I put in before pouring the concrete slab to enable me to run power to this little building. Depends if you want power. So include that before you pour. You just tuck that inside the boxing and have it sticking up proud like this. As I'm going to grind that edge down a little bit just to enable you to feed power through like this. So there in this picture you can see the timber has gone over it, the framing timber, and I've drilled a hole down to enable me to poke the wire around the 90-degree bend and up through there. I'll just feed a wee loop through to pull a draw wire through to pull the cable through, and it goes up through that hole, up the inside of the wall, just like this, and then up to where I've mounted the box in the corner. This is an old shed I built, just like this, as you can see, and then that shows it tucked up. You drill up through the bottom and into the box, and that's your main cable coming in from the house. Now, I ran the cables because I work with a Sparky I know, a registered electrician. Don't try doing stuff you don't know yourself. He was comfortable for me to run the power in and run all the cabling inside, and then he did all the hot works, all the connections, and signed it off. So, yeah, just a note, don't do anything you shouldn't. Okay, so I've built the wall, framed it up on top of the slab, nice level surface to build on. It's going to be stood against the back, you know, to get it, the back wall up. And we're starting to lay the building paper out across the top to give it a protective layer against any moisture. So, yeah, so the whole wall is now covered in building paper, wrapped around the sides nicely, and I've got an extra 50mm at the bottom so that when the wall stands up, it'll be able to overlap. I'll show you that in a sec, and I'm starting to lay the tin out on it. I'm using black corrugated iron, as you can see. I'll cover the whole wall with that so that I can then see here's the extra building paper that'll go over that concrete edge right there, tucked down inside nicely for when I stand the wall, which once this is completely covered in iron, we'll stand it in a sec. So there, we've stood it now against the back. You can see the wall better, the frame. I've framed that at 600 centres. And as you can see, the building paper tucks over the back of the slab as well as the tin, just to enable the water to go down the side of the slab. Now you can see here, see the piece of timber supporting the wall. I've ramsetted a small piece of timber on into the concrete slab. Have a look up how to use a ramset, or you might be able to use concrete nails. And then I've nailed that as a support to hold the back wall up while I left it overnight. It just pays to have something to support walls in place while you're building. Okay, here we are into the next day. Now, you can clearly see those bits of timber I was talking about nailed to the concrete for supports. This is the next wall. I've already brought a window that's going to go in there, and that bit you can see I've framed up. There's a stud that comes up to support it underneath, and then there's side studs. You need to look up that framing a window, you know, for a little bit more in depth on YouTube. But what you want to do is make it 10 to 15mm wider than what you think you're going to need to enable the window to fit in snugly, and then you screw through into those studs that you can see framed there. Don't make it real tight. There's nothing worse, believe me. Yeah, I've been down that track. So this is all ready to go up for the window that will be facing towards the pool. that's out in front there, which is going to get removed. So yeah, onwards to the next bit. There, now you can see the walls stood and in place, and as you can see the concrete here where I've drilled with a concrete drill and inserted bolts to hold that bottom sole plate against the concrete. You just look that up. That's quite easily to find on YouTube, how to drill with a concrete drill. I've nailed through the studs on the side and checked with my spirit level to make sure I'm nice and square. Right, so here you can see I've framed the front wall now. The door's going to be right there where I've just walked in. And we've also put a top sole plate, so that plate around the top, and that locks the walls in. And we've also got a 200 by 50 mil main beam, roof beam in, with 2 bits of timber holding it in place there. That was to help check it in. You know, you put those in place first, and then drop him in, nail through it. Over here we've put, on the other side of the wall, we've put the spouting in out the back, and I've left it ever so slightly proud to run the roofing iron across into it. Just look up how to attach a spouting. Not too hard, I've just drilled it to the outside wall. Okay, so next stage. So as you can see by today, we have put on this one here, and it goes right the way along, double nailed together, and it supports this down to the edge of guttering. You see just how, see how it sits nicely against the edge. Then the building paper is rolled out over that, and building paper comes across just into the guttering along with the iron that you can see I'm starting to put on the roof there. So we're coming along. So here's a view of the roof. See the plywood laid out, and then the building paper with the roofing iron screwed into place. So it's important to make sure that the building paper and the roofing iron overlap into that gutter right there by 15 mil or so, or 20 mil. That way it'll carry all the moisture runoff that's underneath that roofing iron, condensation build up during the winter, make its way into that guttering. Now you'll notice in this picture I've started the outside wall, and at the top can you see I've used plywood to fill in the gap, the triangle gap at the top. It'll give me a support to run the building paper over, and then the tin shape which I cut. And I started from the bottom working up with the tin and left that final triangle shape. I marked it out and cut it out and fitted it. Now if we take a walk down to this inside, you'll see I've fitted the window that I brought into that cavity, screwed it through the window through the timber there into that cavity I made, and I'll countersink those screws and fill them later, and then, you know, repaint it. You come around this side, you'll see where I've left a gap of the profile of the tin, 20 mil there, although I'm actually going to put a flashing in and then finish the tin against the flashing. And speaking of flashing, here you can see, so I've run the tin in from the bottom up, and it's coming just nicely under the window so the water can shed off under that. And here's the flashing I've put down the side, and at the top I brought a particular flashing. Water comes down over the sill, and the tin on that side's fitted in underneath that bit of flashing nicely, and I'll do the same thing on the other side. Okay, as you can see, I've fitted the spouting and fitted the final flashings. I cut them to suit. See, I started with the top flashings first, coming across, hiding all that huckery screwing that's underneath there, and I had to cut with a grinder this last section, that triangle section, and it comes in under there, over that sheet. And then flashings to suit, just pot riveted, drilled and pot riveted through. The downpipe now, the guttering, I've still got to fit that, which I'm going to a little drain that'll run along here, and the doorway's as yet to be finished, but you can see we are now closed in. So essentially this is the point I'm stopping at. Run out of money, have to do another couple of foreigners and raise a bit more cash. I by no means am advocating I'm a professional here. I'm just trying to give somebody out there some insight and a few steps to how to go about it if they want to build their own wee shed. As you can see, it's not professional, but it's to a degree that I'm happy with, to build my own little studio, to get some degree of peace and serenity to undertake my musical inspiration, if you know where I'm coming from. This is an old shed I built at our last property. It was slightly bigger, and that's basically where we ended up. Bit of a mess unpacking there. I'm going to do video number 2 with some input into how to line it, run the cabling perhaps, jib stop, paint, those bits and pieces. If anyone else out there wants any more in-depth advice, feel free to sing out and I'll see if I can help. Thanks guys, see ya.